We'll continue now with the Ein Yaakov on the second Perek of Maseches Shabbos. And again, we are doing this Leilu Nishmas Chana Devora Bas Avraham. And this is a very famous Gemara. The term famous Gemara is probably a bit overused by people, but if anyone qualifies, this one certainly does. Tana Rabbanan. We learned in a brisa. A brisa is a collection of statements made by the Tanoim, or the sages of the Mishnah, but not all of their statements were incorporated in the Mishnah. There are other collections of their statements which are called brisos, which literally mean outside, because they're outside of the official canon of the Mishnah. Mitzvahs ner Chanukah ner ish ubeso. The basic mitzvah of Chanukah is that each night one person lights one candle in a house, and that's it. Vahamahadrin. So the word mahadrin either means people who are seeking to sort of like improve their mitzvah observance, or it comes from their hadr to means beautify, which means the beautifiers do a ner l'chol echad ve'echad. Instead of having only one candle lit in the house each night, they light one candle each night for each family member. V'hamahadrin min hamahadrin, those who are even on a higher level of seeking to do the mitzvah in the best way, or possibly it means those who want to beautify the mitzvah in the best way possible. So then there's a disagreement as to how to light. Beis Shammai omrim yom rishon madlik shmona. Beis Shammai say that on the first night they should light, 8 candles. Mikan ve'elach, and then as Chanukah continues, poches v'holech, they subtract continually each night. So according to Beis Shammai, the first night of Chanukah, you would light 8 candles, and then by the last night of Chanukah, you would light 1 candle. Ubeis Hillel omrim, Beis Hillel say, Yom Rishon madlik echad, and then on the first night, you light 1 candle. Mikan ve'elach mosif v'holech. And then as you go on, you keep on adding more candles each night. Again, you start the first night with 1 candle, and then you move up each night to more and more candles. So it comes out from the Gemara that there are 3 ways to light Chanukah candles. The most basic way is 1 candle in the house, period. Next level is 1 candle in the house for each member of the household. The third way is 1 candle each night. And let's go with the opinion of Beis Hillel, because that's how we hold, that the first night you light 1 candle, the second night you light 2 candles, and the third night you light 3 candles. Now there's a very interesting disagreement among the Rishonim how to understand this mahadrin min mahadrin, the highest level. Meaning we had already 2 lower levels. So the mahadrin min mahadrin of lighting a different number of candles each night, were they referring back to the first way of doing it, of only 1 person lighting? And therefore the mahadrin min mahadrin would also have only 1 person lighting, and then each night that 1 person would add more according to Beis Hillel? Or is the mahadrin and the mahadrin an addition to the second level? Because the second level had 1 candle per person. So now do we mean that each night, the first night 1 candle per person, the second night 2 candles per person, the third night 3 candles per person? So Tosfos, right there on the page, says, Nira l'ri, it appears to the Ri, the Beis Shammai u Beis Hillel, that this disagreement between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel as to whether or not you start with 1 and go to 8, and you start with 8 and go down to 1. Lo kaimi ella aner ishu beso. They're referring to, instead of doing 1 candle for the entire household, each night the number of candles for the entire household should change. Sheyesh Yoser Hider, it's most beautiful, according to Beis Hillel at least, the Ika Akera, Dem Kishamosif Vaholech, that there's a greater recognition of the miracle if each night you add another candle. Avlim Ose Ner L'chol Echad Ve'echad, but if you're anyway lighting 1 candle per person, and on top of that, you're going to go ahead and add another candle for each night, so Tosfos says that doesn't do anything, because this is going to create a confusion, and people looking aren't going to know, what are you doing? Now, the Rambam holds differently. The Rambam is of the opinion that each and every night, each person who is lighting goes up in the number of candles each night. What comes out to be very fascinating is that Tosfos was written in France and Germany. The Rambam lived in North Africa and was of Spanish descent. As a rule, when there is a machlokes, a disagreement in halacha between Tosfos and the Rambam, Ashkenazim rule like Tosfos, and Sfardim rule like the Rambam. And over here, it's reversed. Because in the Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, Rabbi Yosef Karo, who was a Sfardi, he rules in accordance with Tosfos, whereas the Ramah, who wrote additions on the Shulchan Aruch based on Ashkenazic custom, he rules like the Rambam. So it's an interesting little conundrum how that turned out to be backwards of the general situation. Going back to the original halacha of Ner Ish Ubeso, that the essential mitzvah of Chanukah candles is 1 candle for the entire house. The Chacham Tzvi has an interesting tshuva. I'm not telling you this is the way the practical halacha is, but he has a very interesting perspective on this. And he says that the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah is not really then incumbent on any individual. Rather, it's incumbent on the house. And as long as there is that 1 candle burning in your house, that's sufficient. And therefore, the Chacham Tzvi says it doesn't make a difference who lit the candle. As a result, even though generally the rule is that a katan, a minor, someone under the age of bar or bas mitzvah, if they perform a mitzvah, that mitzvah is not valid for an adult. But over here, it is not the performance of the mitzvah which is important. It's the fact that there is a candle that is lit and burning in the house which is important. And therefore, even if a minor would light the candle, that's sufficient, and the house, so to speak, has fulfilled its mitzvah. And he points out, because let's say one spouse lights when the other spouse is not home, they are both yotzei. Why? Even assuming both spouses are adults, they're yotzei, they have fulfilled their obligation. Why? Because the house has a candle. And you don't have to be there. It is not your participation which creates your fulfillment of the mitzvah. One more point I want to share, and that is an interesting Beis Halevi. Why is it that we find uniquely by Chanukah candles that the Gemara spells out 3 levels of observance? That isn't very common in halacha do we find something like that, and certainly not when the mitzvah is established to begin with. To do it in a way, well, here's the basic mitzvah, but if you want to be someone who is super scrupulous, here's the better way to do it. And if you're super scrupulous, here's an even better way to do it. Why is that specifically about Chanukah candles, that things were established in that manner? And the Beis Halevi explains, because the entire mitzvah of Chanukah candles was only necessary because the people wanted to do the mitzvah in the best way. Like, what's this whole idea that they only had enough oil to last for one night? You know what you do if you have only one oil to last for one night? They could have gone ahead and taken the wicks that they usually used and made the wicks much thinner than usual. And if the wicks had been made much thinner than usual, then they could have had enough oil to last for 8 nights. But the point was, they wanted to do the mitzvah in the Beis HaMikdash the best way. And therefore, in the first night that they found the oil and they had an opportunity to do the mitzvah, and they said, we don't have enough oil for 8 nights. And someone said, well, make the wicks thinner. They said, no, we want to do the mitzvah in the proper, most beautiful way possible. And because of the fact that at the time of the mitzvah, they did it in the most beautiful way possible, that's why the mitzvah was established in such a way that you have an option to do it in the basic way. You have an option to do it in several more beautiful ways. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day.